she yelled from her porch. "It's past 8. You're breaking the HOA curfew." Her voice echoed across the quiet neighborhood. I turned around, holding just a cup of coffee in my hand, staring at her in disbelief. "You're serious?" "It's my front yard," I said. But she was already calling someone on her phone, pacing like she was reporting a crime. I never thought I'd see a day when stepping outside my own house after sunset would turn into a neighborhood scandal. But this was the Ironwood Estates HOA, run by Karen Lewis, the self-appointed queen of the community. She made up rules like she was running a prison, not a neighborhood. A few months ago, she decided no one could be outside after 8 p.m. for safety reasons. No vote, no warning, just a printed paper taped to every door, signed HOA management. That night, I just wanted to watch the stars. But as soon as I stepped onto my porch, 3 HOA enforcers in yellow vests came marching toward me. "Sir, you're in violation of curfew," one of them said, holding up his phone like a body cam. I almost laughed. "Curfew? This is private property. You can't tell me when to breathe." Karen appeared behind them, smirking. "We can fine you and we can call security," she said. Her voice had that fake politeness that made your skin crawl. Then she pointed at me and shouted, "He's resisting. Get him off the property." Before I could even react, one of her guys grabbed my arm. The coffee cup fell from my hand and shattered on the driveway. "Let go of me," I yelled, trying to pull free. "You're trespassing on my land." But they didn't care. One shoved me against the fence. My shoulder hit the wood hard. I heard Karen laughing in the background. Something in me snapped. I pushed the man off and stepped forward. "Touch me again and I swear you'll regret it." My voice came out low and steady, not angry, just done. The man hesitated. He looked at Karen for orders. She just crossed her arms and said, "You think you can fight the HOA? You'll be gone by tomorrow." Gone? That word hit me deep. Because last month, she'd already tried to file a false complaint saying my house wasn't up to community standards. She was trying to force me out. And now she wanted a reason to call the cops on me. So I gave her one. I pulled out my phone, opened my camera, and started recording. "Perfect," I said. "Now everyone's going to see this." That wiped the smirk off her face. She told her men to back off, but it was too late. My arm was already bruised and I had everything on video. I called the real cops myself. When I told dispatch that my HOA was physically attacking me for standing outside after 8 p.m., there was a long pause on the line, the kind where you know they're not sure if you're joking. "Stay on the line," the operator said. "Units are on their way." I looked at Karen. She suddenly wasn't so confident anymore. She whispered to one of her men, "Delete everything now." But I wasn't going anywhere. I stood right there in my yard, camera still rolling, waiting for the police to arrive. And as those flashing lights turned onto our street, I realized this wasn't about a curfew anymore. This was about control. And I wasn't going to let her win this time. Tell me honestly, if your own HOA tried to control what time you could step outside, would you obey, or would you fight back like I did? The moment the police car stopped in front of my house, Karen rushed forward like she'd been waiting her whole life for this. "Officer! Arrest him!" she screamed, pointing at me. "He assaulted my HOA security and broke community rules." The officer stepped out slowly, looking confused. "Assaulted? What rule?" he asked, glancing between us. I could see him trying not to laugh when Karen proudly said, "Our HOA curfew, no residents outside after 8. He blinked twice, then looked at me. "Sir, is that true? They attacked you because you were outside after 8? "Exactly," I said, showing him my phone. "And I've got it all recorded. They came onto my property, grabbed me, and threatened to fine me for walking in my own yard." Karen jumped in before I finished. "He's lying!" "That video is fake," she shouted. But her voice cracked. She knew the footage would show everything. The officer took my phone and watched for a few seconds. I could see his eyebrows rise. Then he turned to the HOA guys. "You 3 don't move." His tone changed completely. "You touched him?" One of them tried to explain. "Sir, we were just enforcing HOA policy." The officer shook his head. "Policy doesn't override the law. You just committed assault." Karen's face went pale. No, you don't understand," she pleaded. "We have authority. I'm the HOA president." He looked right at her and said, "You're not law enforcement. You have zero authority to touch anyone, and your curfew isn't legal." That's when I saw the real panic in her eyes. She wasn't just scared of getting caught. She was scared of losing control. This woman had built her whole little empire on fear, fines, and fake authority. Now one video had it falling apart. But then, just when I thought it was over, another car pulled up. Not a police car, a black SUV. A man stepped out wearing a suit and an HOA badge around his neck. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "I'm the regional HOA director," the cop sighed. "Your people just assaulted a homeowner for being in his yard." The director gave Karen a furious look. "You told me everything was handled quietly," he hissed. Karen whispered, "He provoked us." But I cut in calm and clear. "Actually, I didn't, and you'll see that when this video hits the internet." The director froze. "You recorded this?" I nodded. Every second, he turned to the officer. "Can we handle this privately?" The officer said flatly, "No, you're lucky I'm not cuffing anyone right now." That's when Karen tried one last desperate move. She pointed to the "No trespassing after 8 p.m. sign on my fence and said, "That's HOA property. This whole yard is under community jurisdiction." I laughed. "You should have checked the deed. This land was never transferred to the HOA. It's mine, fully private property." The officer actually smiled for the first time. "Ma'am, sounds like you're the one trespassing." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The director stepped closer to her, whispering something I couldn't hear. Whatever he said, it made her flinch. Then he turned to me, trying to sound polite. "Let's not escalate this, sir. We can offer you compensation." I stopped him right there. "No. You'll explain to the real cops why your HOA is breaking the law." The officer looked at me. "We'll take statements, but you're in the clear." Karen's fake smile was gone. Her empire was cracking, and she knew it. Still, something about that black SUV bothered me. The man who came out didn't act like a regular HOA employee. His badge had no photo, and when he turned to leave, I noticed an earpiece under his collar. Who the hell was he, really? That night, as I replayed the footage on my laptop, I paused at one frame and the moment that man leaned toward Karen. Zooming in, I noticed a patch on his sleeve. Private Enforcement Group, not HOA. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about Karen's ego. Something much bigger was happening in our neighborhood. Something illegal. What would you do if you found out your HOA was secretly working with private security companies to control your neighborhood? Would you stay quiet, or start digging like I did? I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I replayed the footage, that black SUV and the man with the earpiece haunted me. Private Enforcement Group. I had never heard of them, and they sure didn't sound like a neighborhood patrol. By morning, I decided to dig deeper. I opened my laptop, searched the company name, and the first result made my stomach twist. It wasn't a security firm. It was a contracted surveillance company, once hired by government agencies for monitoring protests. Why would an HOA use something like that? Just then, someone knocked on my door. I peeked through the blinds, and it was Karen, alone, holding a clipboard like nothing ever happened. I opened the door halfway. "You've got guts showing up here," I said. She smiled tightly. "I just came to clear things up," she said softly. "We both got a little carried away last night." "Let's settle this without lawyers," I laughed. "You mean without police?" Her smile twitched. "Look, those men weren't supposed to touch you. They're under a different contract. You shouldn't mess with them." That last line hit me like a warning. "What do you mean, different contract?" I asked. She looked down. "They're not exactly HOA staff. It's complicated. Just drop the video, okay? I'll make sure you're never bothered again." I leaned against the doorframe. "You really think you can scare me off with that?" She sighed, then her mask slipped for the first time. "You don't get it, do you? You're not fighting me. You're fighting people with power. People who don't like being recorded." And then she left. No threats, no shouting, just a quiet, heavy silence that felt worse than anything. A few hours later, I went to the HOA office. The door was locked, blinds closed, but through the glass I saw boxes missing, files gone. They were cleaning up fast. Something was being covered up. That's when I remembered my ACE card. My cousin, Nate. He's a cybersecurity officer for the county police department. I called him and told him everything. He didn't laugh, didn't question, just said, "Send me the footage." That night, Nate called back. His voice was serious. "You weren't imagining things. That SUV belongs to a private contractor that's been flagged before for illegal surveillance. They're not supposed to operate in residential zones. My jaw dropped. So Karen hired them? Not exactly, he said. They were assigned to your HOA by someone higher up. The company's name isn't on any legal record, but their payments come from a shell account under the HOA's name. This isn't a rule violation, and this is criminal. That changed everything. This wasn't just a power-hungry HOA president. Someone was using the HOA to run illegal surveillance in our neighborhood, and I had proof sitting right on my laptop. The next day, I went outside again, this time broad daylight. Karen's car was parked across the street. She was sitting inside, staring at my house through tinted windows. I raised my phone, recording again. The car sped off instantly. I knew then that they were watching me, probably listening too. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't just some random homeowner. I pulled out a small black badge from my drawer, one I hadn't touched in over 2 years. It read, U.S. Army Intelligence, retired. Yeah, I had training. I knew how to handle surveillance, how to gather evidence quietly, and how to make people like Karen talk when they thought they were in control. I smiled for the first time in days. If they wanted to play games, I was ready to end it. But before I made my move, I wanted to know how deep this went. Who was really behind the HOA's private enforcement? Because if what Nate said was true, Karen was just the face. Someone else was pulling the strings. So that night, I set up a hidden camera facing the HOA office and waited. Around midnight, the same black SUV returned. 2 men got out carrying boxes to the trunk. One of them looked straight into my camera, like he knew it was there, and smiled. The next morning, when I checked the footage, the camera was gone. Only a note remained taped to my front door. Stop digging. You won't like what you find. Tell me this, if you discovered your HOA was secretly part of something criminal, would you still fight? Or would you walk away before it's too late? That note on my door changed everything. For the first time, I wasn't just angry, I was cautious. Whoever was behind this had resources, access, and confidence. They weren't just neighborhood bullies anymore. They were organized. I called Nate again and told him about the note. His tone was sharp now. You need to stay careful, man. This isn't just HOA drama anymore. These guys have been investigated before for intimidation tactics. You might be sitting on evidence they want destroyed. I looked at the hidden drive where I'd saved every video clip. They're not getting it, I said. He paused. Then let's make it public. That's when we came up with the plan. I'd organize a community meeting, something public, something that Karen couldn't cancel. Every homeowner had been complaining for months about her fake rules and secret fines. If I could get them all in one room, we could expose everything at once. 2 days later, I sent out a simple message through the HOA group chat. Mandatory community update Saturday, 6 p.m. Important HOA security changes. Karen saw it and immediately replied, I'll be there. Perfect. When Saturday came, the small clubhouse was packed. Neighbors filled every seat, whispering nervously as Karen strutted in, smiling like a politician. The black SUV was outside again, parked at the corner. She stepped up to the front and started her usual speech. As HOA president, I want to thank everyone for maintaining order and safety. I interrupted, stepping forward. Safety? You mean surveillance? The room went quiet. Her smile froze. Excuse me? I turned to the crowd. Do any of you know that our HOA hired a private enforcement group to monitor residents without consent? Gasps echoed. People turned to Karen. That's not true, she snapped, her voice cracking. I held up my phone, connected to the projector behind me, and hit play. The footage from that night filled the screen. Karen ordering her men to attack me, the fake officers, and the black SUV with that hidden patch. She shouted, Turn that off. That's illegal recording, I said calmly. Not when it's on my property. Then, to everyone's surprise, Nate walked in, wearing his county badge. Actually, he said, it's evidence. The color drained from her face. The room erupted. Neighbors shouted, You lied to us. You used our HOA fees for this? We trusted you. Karen tried to walk out, but Nate blocked the door. You're not going anywhere. That's when the black SUV outside started its engine. I pointed. There they are. 2 officers who had come with Nate rushed outside. Within minutes, they stopped the vehicle. The men inside were detained, and the boxes in their trunk, the same ones I'd seen them stealing, were full of hard, drives and financial records. It turned out the private enforcement group was using the HOA to test neighborhood surveillance programs, funded by a corrupt regional director. Karen had signed the paperwork without even realizing what she was enabling, but ignorance wasn't going to save her. Weeks later, the HOA was disbanded by court order. Karen was charged for assault and fraud. The director who backed her was arrested for data theft and privacy violations. The day it all ended, I stood on my porch at exactly 8:01 p.m., holding a cup of coffee again. This time no one shouted, no one threatened. The street was quiet, free. My neighbor, Mr. Evans, walked by and said, "Guess we can enjoy the stars again, huh?" I smiled. Yeah, it took a while, but we got our freedom back. It hit me then, and all I ever wanted was peace. But sometimes to protect your peace, you have to fight back. Not with violence, but with truth. As the night grew darker, I looked up at the sky and thought about everyone who's ever been bullied by fake authority, by people who think power means control. And I realized, freedom isn't something someone gives you. It's something you protect even when it costs you. So tell me, if someone tried to take away your right to live freely on your own land, would you stay quiet? Or would you fight back like I did?